Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are doing more news. This time it is for what is today, the 13th? 13th of April, 2023. So, yeah, first off, I want to start off with a chart I think is very interesting here. It is a chart that shows uh, the coverage of topics by front page attention. No. Uh, and, we got right wing Fox News, left wing MSNBC. Even though one could argue MSNBC isn't really a left wing, it's a neoliberal crap hole. But anyway, this is how the look at each topic goes. The legal troubles of Donald Trump, they mention it on the right wing media. Left wing media, yeah, it talks about it a lot. Same with the Tennessee lawmakers that were ex, expelled and reinstatements. Left talks about it quite a bit. Right talks about it some. Controversial beer marketing campaigns. The Bud Light having beers on it. The right wing talks about it a fair bit. Left wing is like, this is going on. Anyway, uh, abortion pill restrictions. It's not even mentioned in right wing media, but the left wing talks about it a little bit. Clarence Thomas and his GOP donors. Not even mentioned in the right wing media. Left wing talks about it a little bit. Crime and violence in the U.S. The left wing don't even talk about it. Right wing mentions it a little bit. Louisville bank shooting. Right wing talks about it a little bit. Left barely even mentions it. Same for crime in major U.S. cities. AI advancements and applications. And then we kind of switch around. The right maybe mentions it a little bit, but the left talks about it some. Gun control and reform. Same with Republican presidential candidates. Then we get to Biden's electric vehicle push. It's not even mentioned on the left, but the right talks about it a little bit. Tensions between China and Taiwan. It's not even mentioned on the left, but the right talks about it a little bit. Easter celebrations and messages. Not even mentioned on the left, but talked about barely by the right. Same with investigations into the U.S. intelligence leak. Look how little that receives coverage. And then the Ukraine Russia conflict. It gets even less coverage by anybody. I think someone might have accidentally slipped up and go, "Oh yeah, this is still going on." But it kind of shows you what each side prefers talking about. I find it an interesting uh, graph. So same with this one. Which controller did you start with? Played the Atari, played the original Nintendo, original Genesis, uh, Super Nintendo. That was the upgraded Genesis controller. Played N64, the original PlayStation. I never owned. Okay, so that was a Sega Saturn. That was Genesis. So this is the Sega Dreamcast. I never owned a Saturn or a Dreamcast. I didn't even own an original Genesis, but I knew friends that had them, so I played with them some. Saturn, I rented the console and was able to look at it that way, but that's about it. I knew some people who had Dreamcast, and they were fun, so. But I grew up a lot with the Nintendo controllers. I had an original PlayStation. PlayStation 2, everybody talks about, oh, it's the greatest, greatest. At the time, it was like, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 2, PlayStation. I didn't really own one until late into its life cycle. And even then, I was just kind of eh. PlayStation 3, I still have. It's one of the backward compatible ones, so that's awesome. Again, still have my GameCube. Still have my original Fat Boy Xbox. I think this is supposed to be a 360. Or was this supposed to be PS3, that PS2? Anyway, never really played PS2 all that much. PS3, I've played quite a bit. Uh, the Wii, probably the one console I never owned from Nintendo. I played it some, but yeah, still own and play a Wii U. PS4, I own and play. Xbox, which one is this supposed to be? Anyway, I have a Switch. I never really played the Xbox One, and this is the newest uh, X Microsoft and Sony controllers. That's PS5. I don't even know what the new Xbox is called, but yeah. Um, on a Switch, it's not too bad. It's okay. But yeah, I've played most of these, and I own most of these. Owned, played, owned, played. And I temporarily owned one. Owned. I'm not sure what that even is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be 360, I guess it's supposed to be 360. I owned a 360 for a while. I no longer do, but I played, own. I've never even played the Xbox One. Own, never played, never played. So yeah. Again, just chart I find interesting. Now let's get into some of these stories. News and politics. This is from LGBTQ Nation. GOP lawmaker says 12-year-olds are too young to be trans, but they're old enough to marry. I think this is that Mooney guy or Moon or whatever was in Missouri. Yeah, Missouri House of Representatives debate on Tuesday. An anti-trans state lawmaker proudly supported 12-year-olds getting married while supporting a bill banning trans youth from accessing gender-affirming care up to age 18 and forcibly detransition trans youth. He even said that he knew a kid who got married at age 12 and happily informed his colleagues that she is still with her husband. Dude, how does that cross your mind? And like, this is a good point I am making. Look, yes, Some people, they get together when they're young. They may have long lasting relationships, but guess what? The majority of them don't work. That's why many of the relationships you see that were in high school don't continue. Or if they got married, they'd often divorce. But yeah. Anyway, next story. This is from WLJA. A Tennessee florist refuses service for the Republican National Committee fundraising event. A Nashville based florist has refused a large order for the Republican National Convention fundraising set for the weekend in Nashville. Hey, how I feel? If the baker in Colorado doesn't have to bake a cake for a wedding between homosexuals, florists shouldn't be forced to have to provide flowers to the RNC. I mean, yeah. Oh, Republicans can't stand it. Anyway, this is from New Republic, the ticker. It says Nebraska Republican says 6-week abortion ban is necessary because white people are being replaced. Yeah, that's racist BS and great replacement theory crap. So he's essentially saying we need an abortion so all these people who are not white don't have more kids than us. A Nebraska Republican state senator argued Wednesday for a 6-week abortion ban by claiming there are too many foreigners living in the state, invoking a racist conspiracy theory. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, abortion is allowed in Nebraska up to 21 weeks and 6 days of pregnancy. But on Wednesday, the Senate began debating a bill that would ban abortion after 6 weeks, before many people even know they are pregnant. Yeah, Senator Steve Erdman decided that the best argument in favor of the ban was the Great Replacement Theory, which the Southern Poverty Law Center defines as a racist conspiracy narrative that falsely asserts there is an active, ongoing, and covert effort to replace the white populations in current white majority countries. Why don't you shed a few tears, huh? My God. This is from the South China Morning Post. China's artificial sun breaks record, marking their latest milestone in quest for efficient thermonuclear fusion reactors. The experimental advanced superconducting tokamak generates and sustains plasma for nearly 7 minutes and 4 times as long as its previous record. It uses powerful magnetic fields to confine super hot plasma, forcing hydrogen to combine into heavier atoms and releasing energy in the process. I think that's the same way most nuclear bombs work. I don't think they work in fission where they separate atoms. I may be completely flubbing that though. Fission is the splitting of atoms, fusion is the combining together. But yeah, it is the same way the sun works. It combines atoms in fusion. But anyway, this is from The Guardian. South Korea to give a $490 allowance to reclusive youths to help them leave the house. It's a program for people aged between 9 and 24 who are experiencing extreme social withdrawal. I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't want to go out and deal with other human beings, and it makes it hard to make money when you don't want to deal with people. Anyway, this is from ProPublica. Collapsing roofs, broken toilets, flooded classrooms inside the worst funded schools in the nation. Idaho spends less on schools per student than any other state. Kids are sweating, freezing, and struggling to learn. Jean Bear sank into the couch in the family room of her Bonners Ferry, Idaho home and stared at her phone, nervously awaiting a call. Her twin teenage daughters were nearby, equally anxious. It was election night in March of 2022, and Bear, the superintendent of the Boundary County School District in a remote part of Idaho on the Canadian border, has spent months educating voters about a bond that would raise property taxes to replace one of her district's oldest and most dangerous buildings, the Valley View Elementary School. Built just after World War II, the school was falling apart. The walls were cracked, the pipes were disintegrating, the ceilings were water stained, the electrical system was maxed out, and the insulation was nearly non existent. Classrooms froze in the winter and baked in the summer. The roof, part of which had already collapsed once, was nearing the end of its lifespan. Outside, potholes pocked the parking lot and deep splits formed in warped sidewalks. The kindergarten playground, weathered from decades of brutal winters, had turned hazardous at times. Sharp screws protruded from some of the equipment, and the kids routinely got splinters from the wooden crossbeams. Most worrisome to Bear was and her staff. Kindergarten students had to cross a street multiple times a day just to investigate the sprawling six-building campus, a piecemeal attempt to add much needed classroom space. So yeah. Honestly, school should be something you spend a lot more money towards. I abhor tax cuts because often it's just to give the rich more money. And finally, this is from The Lever. Judge Clarence Thomas pushed to kill disclosure laws while getting secret billionaire gifts. This is something we talked about Tuesday. Yeah, it's getting more and more clear how abusive he was of his power. This court should invalidate mandatory disclosure and reporting requirements, wrote Clarence Thomas, who did not disclose years of gifts from a billionaire. While refusing to disclose lavish gifts from a billionaire, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas pushed to invalidate all political spending disclosure laws in America, insisting that donors have a constitutional right to anonymously influence politics and with unlimited amounts of cash. So he's for corruption, essentially. The undisclosed gifts from billionaire Harlan Crow, who has links to groups that file amicus briefs lobbying the Supreme Court, were exposed by ProPublica report last week. If Thomas now faces no investigation or consequences for potentially violating long-standing federal ethics laws, his actions would create a precedent effectively legalizing unlimited, unreported gifts in much the way he demanded for political donations. So, yeah. I mean, this is corruption, pure and simple. Monetary corruption. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. Educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, which I will be doing in the description box below the video. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.